The next session really is looking at multi-family buildings and renovations and how heat pumps can scale up in that space. And Marek Mire is going to moderate this discussion. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you, and best of luck.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, good morning. Still, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for inviting me for this great job to moderate the session about heat pumps in multifamily buildings. My name is Marek Miara. I'm working at Fraunhofer ISE in Germany, Freiburg, already since more than 21 years. And I am also responsible for a big international project with the topics, or which are addressing exactly the topic of multifamily buildings in different countries. This project calls so-called annexes in frame of International Energy Agency. Yes, heat pumps in single-family houses are more or less standard, particularly in new buildings, but also more and more in existing buildings and in renovation. But heat pumps in multifamily buildings are rather still an exception and not the rule. Analyses show that the obstacles to implement heat pumps in multifamily buildings are both nature. From one side, there are still some technical, I will say, issues, maybe not problems or challenges, but from the other side, there are a lot of administrative issues, which are definitely one of the main reasons why the heat pumps in multifamily buildings are not yet implemented as they should be. During this session, we will try answer following questions. What is needed, actually? What is needed that these circumstances can be changed? And this question we will try to answer from this different perspective. And the second question is, what are the main obstacles and what really helps? Together with me, I have a great panelist. Please join the podium. And the beauty of our panelists are that they have really completely different perspectives. We have somebody who will represent the end users. We will somebody who are representing the administration side. And we have also a global company and also kind of startup company, so delivering different type of solutions. But to name the names, Frederick Rosenqvist is the president and CEO of Quantum Industries. And I have to say also at least partly responsible for the fact that we have a new director general. We have also Hugo Sancho, who was actually energy performance of buildings manager and representing the French Ministry of Energy Transition. We have Enrique Villamitiana, managing director of Panasonic Heating and Cooling Solutions Europe. And we have also Guillaume Joly, who is Sustainable Housing Officer at BEUC, which is umbrella of a group for 44 independent consumer organizations from 31 countries. So it's really impressive how broad our panelists are. We have heard yesterday, but also today, that there are a lot of challenges and a lot of things which are not really working. There are still some things which are really, really good working. So let's start with a success story. In France, the share of heat pumps in new multifamily buildings increased from 4% 2018 to 45% in 2023. So it's an increase of 41% in only 5 years. Hugo, first, congratulations. And what was the success behind, or the secret behind? behind the
Yes.
success.
Thank you, Marek. It's a great honor to be invited here, so thank you for EHPA for this. Yes, I think we are kind of a leader on heat pumps in Europe, in France. How can we explain this in new buildings? I will first say in new buildings. Maybe the industry doesn't like always that, but it's regulation. We have a strong regulation that was put in place in 2022 to say we ban gas boilers in new buildings, in 2022 in individual housing, and 2025, so next year, starting next year, in multifamily buildings. So this creates a pathway for the industry to create new products, to adapt, and for the whole sector to adapt to this. And so we see 45%, but it's pretty clear that next year and the year after it will be more and more, and it will be close to, I don't know, 60, 70%, because there will be no gas boiler anymore in new buildings.
Okay.
I don't know if you want me to talk about existing buildings, but
Yes.
in existing buildings it's more difficult. It's more difficult, obviously, but new products are released every year and every month, and it's needed. And so we also need the skills to install them. I think this is where the debate is. But we've made in France a big study on the potential of heat pumps in multifamily buildings, on the bottlenecks, the issues, and also the opportunities and what can be done. And what we've seen is that usually when I talk about heat pumps in multifamily buildings, in Paris, someone told me, yeah, but how can I do in Paris, in the old town, to install a heat pump in old buildings, what about the sound and everything? And what I reply is that we have millions and millions of multifamily buildings with gas boilers. The debate is not on the very difficult one in Paris. We will tackle this last. But right now, first, we have millions of buildings that can be, the heating system can be changed. It's doable, it's feasible on the technical side, on the administrative, organizational side as well. And we wanted in this study to map this and to calculate how many buildings we can solve right now with the actual technologies. And we found about 3-4 million of buildings, and it's about 1/3 of multifamily buildings in France. So we can think that it's slow, but we also can think that it's very, very high. 3-4 million buildings with heat pumps in multifamily buildings. It's a great challenge, and so I think the priority is to tackle this, to create new products, to give like a stable and regulatory framework for the industry, for the sector, to adapt and to create these products and the skills to make it possible.
Okay, great, thank you. And actually you have proved that this switch is possible. So now with the heat pumps, but 10 years before it was the same coming from the direct electric heating to the gas, and now from gas to the heat pumps. Guillaume, from the consumer perspective, is the French example covering all needs of the consumers, or there are some more needs you would like to mention?
Well, the French example is really interesting regarding the construction, that's for sure. As explained, quite some key challenges remain for the renovation, on which I would like to focus my intervention. Because consumers are still faced with general uncertainty regarding the energy sources they should choose, regarding the energy retrofit project they should go for, let alone in multi-family buildings, where we could also call them multi-unit buildings, because in some units you also have shops on the ground floor, which make it even more complex. So for consumers, this diversity is reflected in the different status. When we talk about multi-family buildings or multi-unit, it means that most of the time it's also the private rented sector, which makes it even more complicated to act. because you need to align the interests of not only the owners, the landlords, but also the tenants. Even if the decision-making process can be simplified via regulatory framework reform, at the moment, that decision-making process is not that easy. So you also have different status for multifamily. They can be co-owned, or they could be housing cooperatives. They could also be the single property of one landlord. But then the question is, what kind of incentives do you have on the private rented sector to act? Knowing that on regulation for construction, we can have it more easily than on retrofit, and let alone on the private rented sector. In the Energy Performance of Building Directive, for example, the minimum energy performance standards were supported at the beginning and were supposed to be implemented, but for the residential sector, they were withdrawn. So from the European perspective for housing, it's quite complex to push for action. There is also a general lack of granular data. That's a feedback I had from one of our Spanish members, Seku, regarding the general number of heat pump installed. That access was simple, but they could not easily know the size of the heat pump installed, nor the type of buildings in which they were installed. So that data and information gap still needs to be tackled, and this is key also for the heating and cooling planning. If local authorities who are and will be in charge, even more so, of planning for heating and cooling don't have the data, it will be a tough challenge, let alone when you have to cross it with the building renovation plans, because those two planning exercises need to match. You also have, for the multifamily buildings, not all buildings are in as big cities as Paris, but most of them will be in cities where you have plans to develop district heating. So perhaps it makes more sense to connect the multifamily buildings to those district heating and have the electrification via industrial size heat pump from the network. Another point is the awareness, because you can have all the technical potentialities you want. If people are unaware that it's something that is feasible, they won't go for it. So it's not only a matter of convincing with rational arguments, it's also a matter of having the information, not only with one channel, but with multiple channels. So through campaign for awareness at the local level, because you trust your local authority most of the time. It should also come from the one-stop shops that we are very supportive of, and those one-stop shops should have dedicated department to address the needs of multifamily buildings, and provide, and I will finish on that point, also provide training for the building managers, because it's already very complex, and maybe sometimes it's a bit an ungrateful task to be a building manager, because you have a lot of units and buildings to care for, and then this comes on top of everything. So you need to understand the technicalities, the administrative hurdles, the financial hurdles. And so you also need to convince the intermediaries in the multifamily building world. So there is a lot of non-technical approaches to go for.
So the list is indeed quite long. I will try to recap a bit. So you need definitely first right regulation. You need, by the variety of buildings and situation of ownership, also different products and different schemes, how to implement very easy. You need also the data, so knowledge and awareness, and then it can be successful as in the France. Enrique, Frederic, you know now what is needed. Do you have the products? which meets this expectation, starting with Rika.
Thank you, Marek, and thank you, Hugo. Thank you, Guillaume. In fact, I think it's going to be quite an easy debate because what you say is probably what we think. I think it's first there is not one solution that fits for all. And I think, Hugo, you mentioned new building, old building, the building in Paris, or the building outside Lyon. That is absolutely a different subject. Yeah, I think we have solutions. We have a variety of solutions that can be applied. But I have to agree very much with what you said. So in fact, the people should be aware. So most of the solutions which we have, many people is not aware, many owners are not aware. So we need to, in fact, we need to accompany them. I think you also mentioned. So in fact, even if the solution exists, the solution is feasible, if nobody is supporting them in understanding how to use that solution, this is not going to happen. So, and then probably when we talk about awareness, sometimes we are thinking very much about the owner of the building. So, and here I make a little parenthesis because you said it's very different when the building is mine or when I'm living in the building. So we need to find a different way to approach the approach to the owner, which is not going to benefit of the heat pump. It's not the same to the owner itself who is going to benefit straight from the heat pump.
So the ownership of the buildings,
I think we need to find different approaches. So they are already, you did it. So in fact, with the H62, H50, so with these programs already, we have shown a lot of solutions. We are showing them now. I think yesterday we got a very nice award for a fantastic Spanish company where they show a solution, the Happening project. So I think we are ready to go, but I think we need to unite more, not only the ones we are sitting here today. I think we talk also about banks, utilities, etc., to reach the point. So.
Okay. Actually, I have to mention that we could almost make an Annex 62 project meeting because Enrique is representing Spain, and Spain is one country also participating by the Annex, and Friedrich Sweden, which is also part of the Annex. So it's almost Annex meeting. But coming to the solutions and to the technical solutions.
Sure. Well, perhaps I should start by apologizing. I apologize for stealing Thomas Novak from the association. It is, however, for a very good cause. As we're discussing here, this is a very hard nut to crack. This is not a simple thing that we're trying to do. And just as we're on here, we need to innovate. The journey, the reason I came into this business was I used to work for E.ON, for the utility. What we did there was to design large systems of heat pumps. I led a team that, and then we had the privilege to present here a couple of years ago that we presented a fifth generation district heating and cooling variant that we named Ectogrid. So it has a special hydraulics, but it is a 5G system. When we built those systems, they became bigger and bigger. And at some point, they came up to the sizes of about 10,000 heat pumps connected to one grid. And I turned to the heat pump manufacturers I was speaking to then and asked them to adapt and to innovate. I needed them in different sizes, different shapes, different forms, different thermal ranges. I needed access to the controls. And by the end of the day, we decided to do it ourselves. We acquired Quantum. Quantum is a 30-year-old heat pump company, so it's not a new company, but it came under a new management through an MBO 3 years ago. And we're now developing Quantum, focused very much on this segment, and that means that we are developing products with new form factors, with new thermal ranges, and with much more ability to steer them. And much of what you talked about before was, and what also the previous panels talked about, there's a lack of knowledge in the entire value chain, right? So you need training and all of that. What we are doing at Quantum is developing that, but through software. So our kind of our responsibility as an industry is to kind of lower the bar and make things easier to design, easier to install and use, easier to operate. If you build a system of heat pumps with 10,000 heat pumps and something in the central part of the system goes wrong, you will get exactly 10,000 calls to customer support. You need to manage these type of systems, and that is what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you. So maybe the quick question also to Guillaume. You heard what the industry is saying. It's enough? Do you think that the customers have everything what they need on the market?
Well, as I mentioned before, I think on the technical level, the industrial sector is providing enough different profiles of heat pump and is getting ready, but all those challenges are mainly not technical. But even like if the technique is ready, you need to have, for example, permits for installation, which might make it way longer than what you expect, and it also needs to match with a specific timing of decision making for the multi-unit family. So you have a lot of things to match, and the technicalities are not the main challenge.
Okay, it's good to hear. So if it's so, I have the question for Enrique, which is not connected directly to the product, but you are a global company, having, of course, experience in a lot of countries. Besides of the products itself, can you name some key aspects? What is really decisive if in one country is running quite well, in other countries with a lot of obstacles?
I think that's a good point. So in fact, Hugo introduced that part. No? In France, obviously, the process is getting better. So, and to me, there are 4 aspects that will support the development of heat pumps. We talk about the easiness of installation, we talk about explaining the solutions. But for instance, this part of the MaPrimeRénov', accompagnateur, where there is support to explain to the owners what they have to install or what is the right solution for them. I think it's definitely, aside of ban of a boiler, those types of things are important. But I think even more, and I have to insist in what Guillaume is saying as well, going together with the owners and explain what is the solution that fits for them. That is, I think, one of the key points. Also, if we need to talk about the French market, probably the French market is one of the most advanced heat pump markets. So probably, and we come to the awareness, so the installers probably know the best about heat pumps. They have had experiences on that. So still we need to work, of course. Always we need to work on that. But I think that is a clear example of a country where the solutions are working well. But still, there are a lot of challenges there. So, and I think one of the challenges, and even if Paris is a really big challenge, so is how to make the products, in fact, easy to install. So how to find solutions where we can move from the existing boiler to a heat pump. In that sense, for instance, and I'm using again the example of the award got yesterday, water loops might be a very good solution. Mm. So in fact, without going into promotional side, so this is one of the areas we are investing because we believe bringing solutions where you can move quite easily with water loop could be an easy way to transition from existing boiler to a heat pump. So,
okay, thank you. I saw the direct response on the.
Just regarding what fits best for them, maybe here we need to define if it's a singular them or a plural them, because perhaps in the multi-family buildings you will have owners that can invest in a heat pump for their own unit, but a collective solution would be a benefit because you would have also to address all the business model questions related to the collective or individual approach. So it's important to know if, like, legally a unit with a collective hydronic system would have a right to separate itself and be on its own, or if it would make more sense to go for an air-to-air heat pump because it's cheaper and easier to install. And then the habits from the households would change as well in terms of heating. So you have several technical options, but that means definitely totally different regulation after that.
No, extremely agree. Okay, so in fact, I think, as I said at the beginning, there is not one solution that fits for all. And for instance, and here when we are talking about heat pumps, most of the time we are thinking water. Automatically, water comes to our mind. You said air-to-air heat pump is definitely, and we are looking for that many times. This is the affordable heat pump sometimes, because the installation tends to be easier. So fully agree with you. So this building will need air-to-air and a domestic hot water heat pump. This one will need a central approach. This one simply will need the water loop connecting to a district heating. And another one will need individual air-to-water. Yeah, all solutions are correct. So I'm not a fan of any of them. But we need to make this educational process where the owner understand, the installer understand, and of course to contribute to, I think, to the discussion we have had this yesterday and today. We need the collaboration of financing tools, a good price of electricity and everything else, because at the end, what we need is the business model at the end to be good for the one who is investing. Yeah. So that is the important point.
Okay. Talking about heat source, heat sources can be in multifamily buildings somehow challenging because of noise or other questions or other aspects. Fredrik, your key approach, of course, besides heat pumps itself, is an accessibility to the heat source for heat pumps. It is one of the main challenges in the cities, especially in the dense cities. Please tell us something more about your approach.
Absolutely. We've talked about it before. Earlier today, there's been mentioning of waste heat resources. So we talked about the hospital in Denmark that uses its own waste heat in an efficient way. So coming from the industry, we understand exactly how that works and why that makes a ton of sense. If you then zoom out of one building and it all of a sudden becomes much more complex, just as multifamily buildings are more complex because you have different tenants, maybe a different owner, and all of that. The person behind Ectogrid, the person I worked with at E.ON, he was really, and is an expert on district heating. And E.ON is the second largest district heating provider in Sweden. Answering that from your question about waste heat sources from a business perspective and not only a technical perspective, I'll share that story. If you are a district heating provider, and this is the case in Sweden, you are very good at providing one thing, and that is heat. And all of a sudden, you do that using carbon. So you go up in very high in temperature. That's easy for you. You go out with 90 degrees, and then you can satisfy everyone with one thing, heat. Whenever the customer starts to talk about heating and cooling, it becomes much more complex. Of course, the technology is there to answer the customer with, I also have district cooling for you. So then you have one infrastructure going based on carbon, going 90 degrees, providing you something where you probably need something much lower. And then you have another infrastructure providing something maybe 10, 12, up to 18 degrees that is doing your cooling. The problem with that is that is, of course, what you're trying to do, but the business case is not a good one. Mm. So whenever a district heating company is approached by a customer, let's say in the center of the city, saying, and district heating is nice. It's carefree, low capex, and carefree, so many of the customers appreciate it. But once they introduce the topic of, you also need to provide me cooling, otherwise I will do that terrible thing, meaning I'll buy myself a heat pump, then he was, really, focusing on how come we as a utility cannot use this innovation that a heat pump is. And there's a saying that from a utility perspective, heat pumps are good if they are very large and on the utility side of the energy meter. And heat pumps are really bad if they are small, many, and on the customer sides of the utility meter, right? So that with a twinkle in the eye, but how could we get a utility to utilize heat pumps in a smart way? And that comes back to your questions about heat sources in the city. All of a sudden, if you change the infrastructure, you don't go 90 degrees and you don't go 12 degrees. You have an absolutely meaningless temperature in between. No one needs 25 degrees. But there are plenty of different sources of that. So if there's a different view on how you build your infrastructure, all of a sudden you can capture those residual streams, and it's a really, really big challenge. One of the first business cases we designed was a system in the southern part of Sweden. They used to buy about 10 gigawatt hours of heat and about 4 gigawatt hours of cooling. The fantastic thing there was that strengthened the business case, it was process cooling. So it was available all over the year. So by powering the cooling machines with 1 gigawatt hour of electricity, you provided those 4 gigawatt hours of cooling, but you got 5 gigawatt hours of residual heat. So all of a sudden, you only had to do the work for another 5 to have provided 9 units of good and the additional to do the entire work. If we have a different view on how we build our infrastructure in the future, then and now I'm talking kind of utility scale or city scale. Before you build a new expansion area in a city, you need electricity. So the power company needs to be there, right? The water and sewage company needs to be there, and the roads need to be. You will not get a building permit until those 3 infrastructures are in place: electricity, water and sewage, and roads. And then many times we then either have a gas grid or a district heating grid in sometimes, or why not a pointless, meaningless ambient loop that allows you to capture all those residual heat streams.
Okay, so new way of thinking, actually, new way of also planning cities or neighborhoods. It will be important for the future. I would like to start the Q&A session. Obviously, there are good examples, both on the technical way and also the administrative way. But it's not as popular still, the heat pumps in multifamily buildings. So maybe you would like to ask why. Any questions? I see one there. Marta, could you provide Marta a microphone?
Thank you. Again, Marta from the Spanish Association of HVAC Manufacturers. Thanks for the panel for addressing the main concerns and challenges for the multifamily buildings. I wanted to make a remark to what Guillaume Joly said about the lack of granularity of data. And he cited specifically the case of Spain. Actually, there is granularity. We do not reach down to every single house yet. I assume it will come as soon as all the heat pumps are connected and digitalization progresses, though there will be always cases of private property and privacy respect. So it will not always be fully achieved, but there is granularity. The thing is that we as an association do have the statistics. We provide data both to EHPA, to Eurostat, to the regional communities in Spain and to the government. And from those bunches of data, the energy, the renewable energy is calculated, and the efficiency as well. So there is granularity, not down to the house, but there is a lot of granular data, but not everything is shared. It is shared, grouped because of privacy issues.
Okay.
That was only a remark. Thank you again.
So more the comment. Do you want to comment the comment?
So you would have the address, and you would know it's a multi-family building, but you wouldn't know exactly, well, if I understand correctly, it's a work in progress, but you would, out of privacy, would not know exactly which unit would be equipped. Okay. Which, like, I guess in terms of compilation of information, is fine, but at the scale of a building, then remains the question of who is equipped or not, which might not be solved by statistics. That's also a question for the building managers.
Okay, any other? Yes, please.
Easy for you, yeah? Yeah, I have a common question for Frederick. I was working once in IT in the 90s, and there was the big time when mainframes were replaced by distributed computing. And I see a total analogy. The operating system is the hydronic grid, the computer is the heat pump. And if you're learning a little bit from that time, right, we have no mainframe anymore today. If we could use distributed heat pumps, and if I'm now building a heat pump at home, and if I now build a 15 kilowatt instead of a 10 kilowatt, and I ask my neighbor, I don't need a district energy grid, right? I need a 50 or 20 or 10 meter pipe to my neighbor, but this is nearly impossible from a regulation perspective, from a approval perspective. I think it's a fantastic idea to use, also in Paris, by the way, right? If one has a space in the cellar, we had that before, yeah, and the neighbor doesn't have, why does the one not build a bigger one? But we have to bring these ideas to the people and to the authorities. I think it's possible.
Definitely, and I think exactly the using of heat sources in multifamily buildings in dense cities will be like a common challenge. So it will be not single solutions, but it will be more and more common solutions.
Not the mainframe, right? Not the big heat pump with the district energy utility for 50 million euros.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I like the thinking, and of course, getting this grid into place sounds impossible, for so many different reasons. But we've gotten other infrastructures in place in the past. We got fiber installed, right? So why don't we replace some of our older infrastructure and replace it with something like that? And then all of a sudden, you can also play with it both on the thermal layer, but also on the grid layer, on the electrical grid. So every heat pump is connected to at least one grid, preferably two, and all of a sudden you can start to do a lot of things. And all of that happens on the software side.
Enrique, you have also a comment?
Yeah, maybe I will be a little controversial, okay? But I think one of my points is let's make it easy, at least now. Okay, so I think if today we are not able to explain one heat pump per one house, if we start talking about 3 heat pumps or 2 to 5 houses, I think we are really going to make it difficult. So I think I'm always saying, let's be careful what we wish, or when we wish it, okay? So I think I agree in ideal concept. So and maybe it's the time who is deciding what is the right. But today, let's make it simple.
Okay, so simplicity.
I agree that we have to make it simple, but we can still challenge something really complex.
Yes.
But we have, and we as an industry have to find, and one way to do that is to establish standards.
Could we? Yeah.
It's nothing better than the discussion in the panel. Hugo, you have.
Yeah, I'm very happy of the discussion between my two leads. I, as representing the government, I'm technology neutral. Among heat pumps, gas boilers, we phase out, but among heat pumps, I'm neutral. And I'm happy that you mentioned Paris. Paris was mentioned several times. But however, I was saying that we should not focus on Paris. But I'm very happy that you want to, and that you have this also this will to provide a solution for every building, and it's also important. Maybe something to add to the discussion. In the panel, we have the consumers, the industry, the government, but we don't have one step that is the installer and hold the value chain. One thing that we are doing and what we did in the French heat pump action plan, and that can be an inspiration for the Commission if they want to publish one day, it's that we want to provide a funding for the sector, because the sector is too weak. The sector is too weak because, for instance, the French Heat Pump Association, I like them very much, but there are only two people working there. And we need way more people to do two things. The technical side, so provide guides, provide all the stuff for the people that install, the people that provide technical expertise, engineers, all that. And we need also the second thing, that is the influence. The heat pump industry, the heat pump sector, should be influenced in the whole building sector. The building sector is the knowledge sector with a whole set of practices that they know. There are this knowledge from years and years, and the gas sector is very influenced. The gas sector has an influence on all the building sector, and maybe there are some people that work both in heat pumps and gas, and it's a good thing. But I think if we want to do the change, we need to provide to the industry of heat pumps the possibility to influence the whole building sector, and in the forums, in the meetings with the guys and all that, it needs to change. So, yeah.
Okay. So, Guillaume, one last question or comment, and then I have also one more round questions for you, but it will be short.
Just
I promise.
A follow-up comment regarding the lack of installers. Not only do we need more installers, accredited and skilled, but you also need to take into account the inevitable issues that will come up because they will be on a learning curve. So it's important to have a service for consumers after the installation for them to know who they can call and have their problem fixed, because the teething problem of large-scale installation will come in any case.
Okay. So now I will do something for me. We are planning to start the new annex after the 62 will be closed. So I will collecting now the most important things which we should address. So each of you, please finalize the sentence. The majority of multifamily buildings will be equipped with heat pumps in 10 years if?
If they are designed to be part of a system to begin with. I'll leave it there.
Okay, thank you.
To add something new, because what I said before was important as well, maybe to simplify the regulation on the installation and to harmonize it and to make it easier to install on the administrative point.
Okay. We need to work very hard in creating a good explanation to owners so that they can understand. We have to create financial tools that facilitate the investment. We need to create the condition that they can get return on the investment later on. And of course, even if I'm convinced there are a lot of solutions, we need to, I think you said, Frederick, we need to keep innovating more and more to cover whatever it cannot be covered nowadays.
Okay.
Well, if co-owners are aware that the solution is available and they can trust it, and also a point on financing, because most of the time banks don't provide any offers for multi-unit directly. It's for each unit co-owner. So if you want to have an organized, planned, and neat transition for multifamily buildings, that means we need those financial instruments to be tailor-made for the collective investment.
Okay, great, thank you. So I noticed system approach and system thinking, and then simplification, not only of regulation, but also of installation of heat pumps, then knowledge, sharing knowledge, and financing solutions which are attractive for the end users. I think it's a great summary. Thank you for being with us until very last minute, and enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
Just very quickly before lunch, and I won't keep you very long, could I answer your question and say if the customer journey is simple, attractive and well known? So I think Hugo's mention of the need to strengthen our associations at a national level is so important, and it echoes what I said yesterday, I think, so it's great to hear.